everyone, welcome to Reading with Even. Let's get on with the bookish video. Today we are looking at some underrated thrillers. So when I think of like super popular thrillers, I think of like Gone Girl, Girl on a Train, what else, like Sharp Objects, Couple Next Door, like Rock, Paper, Scissors, what else, like, I don't know, The Only One Left, like, basically, like, think of any thriller that you hear over and over on, like, a thriller booktubers or bookstagrammers page. I'm here to talk about those that don't get mentioned often. It's not necessarily they were never mentioned by any booktuber or, like, book influencer ever, but as opposed to being constantly talked about, they're kind of, like, mentioned in passing. And I just want to bring more exposure to them, because I thought that they were pretty amazing. Maybe not like all-time 5-star favorites, but definitely worthy of some sort of attention. So I picked like one author for each book, because I still have like some author deep dives to get into in the future. And I do have a video idea that I do need to read more of, like my author's backlogs to do. But anyway, let's get into some underrated thrillers. So, the first one is Someone We Know by Shari Lapena. So, I've heard this one talked about a few times, but it's always, like, overshadowed by, again, like, Couple Next Door, or, Not a Happy Family, like, just, it's not very much talked about one, and I think it's like my personal favorite one of hers. So it's about the suburban neighborhood where a mother finds out that her son was breaking into people's homes for no other reason than because he can, and she decides to send anonymous letters of apology to people whose homes he broke into. Dante feels that he is the star of the video, which obviously he is. I mean, I would apologize for that, but nothing to apologize for here as far as I'm concerned. He's just being very clingy today. So anyway, so she sends those letters of apology, and one woman from one of the houses that her son broke into is missing. So naturally, she's like, wait, could my son have had anything at all to do with this? And I just think it's like a fascinating deconstruction of suburban neighborhood, of Iman, get down, of like marriages and friendships just crumbling, of like gossip and backstabbing that people tend to do in small communities. I thought it was really interesting, and Shari Lapena's thrillers, they have detective characters in them, but they don't feel like they overshadow. They're not the main characters. They are just there to do the technical bit. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure she used to be a lawyer, and I'm sure I've mentioned it in a video of some sort. But that's why her, like, court bits or like technical investigation bits, they are mostly accurate, and like it shows that she knows her stuff. So basically I just think that like the detectives add to the story rather than detract from it, and like the way they investigate things, it's quite interesting to show like what you can get away with, like what's legalities and all that stuff. So yeah, I really love this book. I still have 2 of hers to read, but I think so far it is my favorite and the one that I would recommend. Now Dante decided that it's time to play, so if you hear any noises or squeaks, that's why. Like, he rules this house. Like, it's just how it is. So my next book is The Party by Robin Harding, and I've only heard one booktuber talk about it, and I do think that this book deserves more recognition, because it is kind of like a character study wrapped up in a bit of a thriller vibe. So you have this family whose daughter is turning 16, and in America that's like Sweet 16, to be fair. Not just in America, I think in a lot of cultures Sweet 16 is kind of like a huge thing. So they throw her this party, with her friends in a basement, and the party ends with one of her friends losing an eye. And it just goes from there. So the enticing incident of the party, it happens in the first 60 pages. It's not like a culmination, it's just like, this is the whole reason why the story is happening. And then afterwards you get to see everyone's reactions, so you get to sort of judge everyone's character based on how they're dealing with this. So you get people who are not willing to take any responsibility, people who are just so occupied with getting what they perceive as right that they ignore other people's pain. You have you have the victims, people who are actually suffering from damages inflicted, and then you have the actual question of what the hell happened. And the thing is, I think it becomes, as the book goes on, it becomes less about exactly what occurred in that party and more just about how horrible people can get when their status and their power and like their money and homes and everything, when it gets threatened. That none of us are really safe from our worst impulses coming out. So yeah, it's definitely a slow burn, and it is not one of those thrillers where everything is like tied up neatly in a bow. So if that sounds like your sort of thing, I would definitely recommend it. And then another underrated thriller I have is The Dark by Emma Houghton. I think that's her name. Again, it's hard to say without holding the books up. I got really used to it. So it is about our main character. I forgot her name, but she is like a research analyst sort of thing. And she is invited to come to a research facility in Antarctica. Sorry, actually, she's not an analyst. She is a doctor. I just remembered saying that. But she works with research analysts. That's why I got confused. So yeah, she gets invited to be a doctor in a research facility in Antarctica because of like the long night season. You know how it's like a very long day there where the sun doesn't go down, and then once it goes down it's for months. So she gets invited to go there, but someone disappears and things start happening that she starts believing she and the other people are trapped in there with a killer. And I was having like a really crappy reading month in December 2023, and this was the last book I read of that year, and I think I gave it a 4.5, so like it really saved that month for me, and I ended the year on a good note. It was a really atmospheric thriller that I really enjoyed. It did have that little bit of, unreliable narrator, because she did have some substance abuse and all that, but I don't think it was done in a way that's insulting to the character and that it stereotypes substance abuse issues. Like, I think that it was done pretty well as far as that trope goes. I mean, I would prefer if that trope kind of phased itself out of, like, thriller horror genre, but, I don't make the rules. It was, again, really, like, the whole facility and the long night and, like, the darkness and the isolation, and I thought, obviously I'm no scientist, like, I'm no medical person, whatever, but I thought that as far as the whole, nitty-gritty technical bits of the facility went, and how people who work in those facilities, how they live, with limited resources, like limited shower times and like limited food options, I thought that it was portrayed as accurately as possible without sounding too boring, because it's still meant to be a thriller. And I don't remember the end super clearly, but I do remember thinking that, like, I didn't think, oh my god, this makes no sense, hence why I ranked it the way that I did. Like, it just wasn't an all-time favorite, but I've genuinely not heard anyone ever talk about it on any platform, and I think I found it on a random Goodreads list of thrillers. I don't know. I definitely didn't find it from someone talking about it. So yeah, I thought I would put it out there, because I think that as far as thrillers go, it's one of the better ones. then I have Night Watching by Tracy Sierra. This is one of the newer releases, and been actually talked about by a few booktubers, but I just don't think that this book is getting the appreciation that it deserves. So you have this woman who realizes that there's an intruder in her home, and it starts like from page 1, and she and her kids hide in like this crawl space in a wall, sort of like panic room thing, kind of like, you know, that movie with Jodie Foster and Kristen Stewart. So I love that movie, by the way. Young Kristen Stewart could act. She can still act now, but I think that Twilight really like typecasted her into these sort of like almost robotic roles. But anyway, that's completely different topic. So they're hiding in that space, and the mother realizes that, so I'm trying to multitask by giving Dante some attention. So she realizes that she knows this intruder, and it is a very smart thriller. Any kind of, you know, like you read a thriller and you like get to these points where it's like, okay, I'm gonna get past it because I'm entertained, but logistically this does not make sense. This book covers all the logistical plot points that it possibly could. It sorts everything out. It wraps up everything super neatly. It has that trope again of the unreliable woman narrator who has like substance abuse problems, just like the other book, but it uses that very pointedly to showcase that it's a problem, and just because a woman has or has had in the past those problems, it doesn't mean that her experiences should be discredited. So I think that it had a lot to say there. It had like some slower chapters to encapsulate some character work, but it also obviously had those like super spine-tingling, entertaining chapters of them hiding and being pursued and whatnot. So I would absolutely recommend it. Like, if you scoff at most thrillers, I think that you will love this one, because Sophie from Meg's Discord, she said like she's not a thriller girly, but she liked that one. Then the other underrated one is Black Widows by Kate Quinn. This is about 3 women who were in this polygamous marriage with this man, and they were like living all cut off from the world in this rural farm. I don't remember like the exact geographical setting, but I think it's like in southern America. And the husband dies. So the police are like, well, any of these 3 women could have killed him. And I just thought it was such a well-crafted mystery that I was genuinely unsure of which wife, if any, killed him. And they all sounded completely different from each other, which is something I appreciate. Like, if you're doing multiple POVs, make them different. Like, I'm not here to read from like 10 points of view that all sound the same. I spoke about it in a previous video. But they sounded different, and each of them had like an established background of there was like religious trauma, like abuse and whatnot, like a lot of things that made them not necessarily likable characters, but multifaceted ones. And there was also, you know, that rivalry in that, you know, multi-people marriage, the rivalry of like which one was he gonna pick to be like his favorite, you know, that not very girls situation, but kind of also understandable. And also people's views on this thing, because I don't think it's something that's very encouraged or praised even today. Like, marry multiple people, is that even legal in some? He's still going to Crazy Town in a bitey mood today. But anyway, I do think that it's definitely one of the more unique thrillers. And again, I don't think I've ever heard anyone on BookTube or Bookstagram talk about it. I found it on yet again like another random Goodreads or some other internet list. So I would definitely recommend that one. I think I ended up giving it a 4 because I thought it could have been a bit shorter. But apart from that, like, it's really good. Then another one I have, this one has been talked about, but I just don't think that it's been talked about enough based on some other less good thrillers that have been talked about more since it came out, if that makes sense. And that is Runtime by Catherine Ryan Howard. And this one is about this actress who is a social pariah after she like had a mental breakdown on her movie set. And no one's hiring her except this like kind of like indie, super like a known director decides to go back to his college roots, and he wants to like film this horror movie in like Ireland, rural, like super abandoned place. So she has to take this chance, right? It's her like last possible way to regain relevance, and she goes there and she's the only woman on set, and it's not great situation. I know that I would probably just, I'm not a runner, like I do some jogging, but like I can't run like long endurance ones, like I'm not that fit, so it doesn't matter. I would just run. I would just turn back, leave my stuff, and be like, okay, peace, good luck, bye, whatever you want to do amongst yourselves. So yeah, she stays, obviously, because she does want her career back, and it just keeps getting weirder and weirder. Well, not weirder in a sense, like, there's nothing, like, surreal, fantastical about it, but it's just sketchy things happen. So I actually really enjoyed it. Again, I thought it was a bit too long, but I enjoyed the meta aspect, because there's, like, a script of the movie that she's starring in, and that script actually is relevant to the story. It's not just for the sake of, oh, look, there's a script, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not half-assed. It's like a proper, full-on mixed media thing. And there's also, like, just some meta talk overall, like, filmmaking. There's, like, some things that are acknowledged, kind of, like, as the story happens. It's kind of, like, a bit self-referential, and I know that's that sort of stuff, it can go either really well, like Scream franchise, for example, or it can sort of just backfire and just look corny or, like, too forced, too in your face, but it really worked for me. And I had a really good time, and the main character, like, so most of the choices that she made to get to where she was, like, yeah, a lot of the choices were made so that she could get to that place, so the story could start, but at the same time, you could understand, like, you could understand how she felt like she had no choice, and she was likable enough for you to sympathize with her and, like, for you to want to see her make it out okay. So yeah, very enjoyed that one. Enjoyed that one very much. That's the one. Then the last couple. I have 13 Minutes by Sarah Pinborough. I believe that... Oh yeah, that was actually the one that I was gonna say when I was talking about, like, super popular ones that have been talked about, like, for however many years. I do think Behind Her Eyes has been, like, talked about, like, hundreds of times. I myself have spoken about it because I read it, like, I think 2023. So, yeah, but 13 Minutes is, again, I think there was one booktuber that spoke about it, like, a while back. It is an older one of hers. It's technically YA, but to me, it kind of more read just like a thriller about teenagers rather than a teenage thriller. So I do think that it can be read by both age groups because it's not overly graphic, but it doesn't really read juvenile to me, or at least it didn't. But granted, I did read it 8 years ago, so if I reread it now, but that's the thing. I'm happy to leave some favorites from years ago as favorites because they serve their purpose at that time. I'm not the sort of person who's gonna, like, dissect, oh my god, am I still gonna love it? There are some books that I ranked 5 stars, like, some years ago, and I think, nah, probably wouldn't rank them like that now, but I think this one I would still enjoy because I read Insomnia by her, which is going to be my May wrap-up, actually, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I enjoy her style, so I think that it would still hold up for me. Anyway, this one is about, so a jogger, or like a dog walker, one of the two. So basically, like, a person stumbles onto this girl who is in a lake in the middle of winter, and she's been dead for 13 minutes. So she wakes up, eventually in the hospital. And she asks her former best friend, who she ditched for like popular girls, to help her find out what happened, because she says, I think my best friend's trying to kill me. So I know that I can trust you because you were my best friend like once in the blue, like, you know, eons ago. Can you help me? And our main character, whose POV we, like, most of the book is from her POV, the friend who that girl who was in ICE abandoned. So she's like, okay, I will help you. And it just goes from there. So yeah, I think that, yeah, the ending is a bit unhinged, but I think Sarah Penborough is known for endings that are like very out there. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think in a weird way it makes sense. I think it's kind of like unhinged in a way that it's just how certain people in the book, how they see things and how they think is like the menace. So anyway, I think that it shows, you know, how some people can be like a little bit delusional and a little bit like how they perceive things, and high school politics. I mean, well, some can say like, well, I don't care about high school politics, but I think that it was more like in a way of like, how do I explain this without spoiling it? Because I still remember what happens, even though to like relatively good detail, even though I read it 8 years ago, which should be like, it should tell you how it stuck with me. But yeah, I think that high school politics is something that in one way, shape, or form, unfortunately transcends into a lot of things into adulthood. And I think that in this book, it was portrayed in kind of like a way that doesn't feel too childish. It was like about, like, again, just about, you know, young women being horrible to each other for XYZ reason. So yeah, I don't know if I'm explaining it super well, but again, try not to spoil it and like recall like little bits that happened, but I thought that it was fantastic. It was in my top 10 favorite thrillers for years, and I've actually not thought about if my top 10 has been updated, because again, I'm not really sure how often I can even update it, because I need to let things sit, but I think it would probably still be in there. And then the last one that I have is, I generally don't understand why this book is not more talked about among the popular content creator communities, because it's absolutely fantastic and amazing. Like, I think I saw a couple of reviews online, like, from booktubers, but again, it's been nominated for an award, so, like, people have seen it and they have recognized it, but I just think it's not enough. It should be more talked about. It should be made into a movie or something, I don't know, but it is none other than Sadie by Courtney Summers. Like, I wanted to end with a bang. So this book follows a podcast creator, true crime podcast. I know what you're thinking, but I think that it was actually the book that, maybe it didn't start that true crime podcast boom, but it was one of the like first ones before it was a cool trend to do and every thriller started doing it. So this is about this true crime podcaster whose boss tells him, I want you to cover this missing girl's case. And he's like, what's so special about this case? And he's like, just do it. So he goes to that girl's hometown, Sadie, our titular girl. So Sadie's sister was brutally murdered and just her body was left in the town square. And she goes missing shortly after that. So we also have Sadie's point of view as we find out what she is doing. And she is on her quest for revenge, because she knows who killed her sister. And it's the person who also made her life living hell. And as far as it comes with the plot, I'm going to leave that there. Don't think you need to know much more diving in. Do check your trigger warnings, because it is marketed as YA, but it's so dark and so bleak that, I don't know, it could easily just be, again, it feels like an adult book about young people. Not to mention that one of the main characters whose POV we see is, like, an adult man anyway. So, yeah, so basically, I mean, what's not to love about this book? The mixed media format is done so seamlessly, and it's strategic. It has something to say, like it makes that commentary without like being virtue signaling about how true crime can be damaging, about like how gratuitous it can be, and how those podcasts aren't always a good thing. They can be a good thing if you use them correctly. It also shows a really complex main character who might not be the most likable, but who has a huge sense of what is right because she's been through hell, and the one person that she loved the most was brutally taken away from her. Like, it talks about sisterhood. It talks about, you know, doing something when you have nothing to lose. And it also talks about, again, the amount of missing people's cases. I mean, I listen to, like, videos about missing people a lot, depending on my mood, if I can handle it. And I just think it's so creepy and unsettling to think that most of those cases are probably never going to get solved. And then you wonder, like, how can someone just disappear? And, yeah, it's a lot to digest, I think. Like I said, it is dark. It is brutal. There's that suspense because the podcast guy, because their POVs are juxtaposed, like chapter by chapter. You get his, hers, you see the point. And he's always kind of like a bit behind, and you just want to scream at him, just get there faster. You can do something about it. And yeah, it's like it's a very, very feel read. Not good, feel good or anything, but like you will feel things, lots of different things. Happiness is not one of them, by the way. Like, lots of bad things, but like in a good way because it's so well written. So yeah, I would say if I were to recommend you one book out of this whole video, like if you were only gonna read one, make it this one, because it's fantastic. But ideally, you should read all of them. Just saying. So yeah, these are all my underrated thriller books that I really enjoyed. And, I mean, I need to read all the thrillers I have on my TBR, but I can already, like, see a few that look interesting to me that I've never really seen, been given, like, enough exposure and stuff. So, if I think that they're worth talking about, I might make a part 2 of this. If you read any of these books, do recommend them as well to other people in the comments, and just share your opinions and thoughts. And I hope to see you next time. Bye!